Welcome to this episode of the Dropout Multi-Millionaire Podcast, where we talk about tactical business strategy, building high-performance sales teams, and growing your business. If you're ready to break free from the status quo and join the ranks of the mavericks, the rebels, and the renegades who refuse to conform and instead build multi-million-dollar businesses, then buckle up, because here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Dropout Multi-Millionaire Podcast. Once again, my name is Brian Will. And today's episode is called From Startup to Exit. We're going to cover the whole gamut today. It's a high-level version, and I know everybody's got it. They're in a different stage of their business. And so this material today is going to be a little bit generic. I'm going to have to generalize a bit because of the different places everybody's at. But I will tell you after the episode, if you have any more questions, you can either go to my website at brianwillmedia.com or drop me an email, which is brian@brianwillmedia.com, and we'll see if we can get your questions answered. And so with that, I want to jump into this episode, From Startup to Exit. And we're going to start with what I call the 8 most important things that I want you to remember from today's episode. And I'm going to expand on them later, but I'm going to go through these 8 things right out of the gate because I want you to remember these. Number 1, having the right mindset will not get you where you want to go. And I'm going to expand on this one a little bit right away because I see people on social media and there are so-called coaches out there telling you that it's all about mindset. Mindset is everything. It's the only thing you need to have. If you have the right mindset, you're going to accomplish anything. That's bullshit. Having the right mindset is not going to get you where you want to go. It will put you in a mental position to succeed. So having the right mindset is important, but it is not enough. You have to be capable of execution. If you can't execute, if you can't come up with a plan and make it happen, being all positive mental attitude about it and telling everybody how you can and you will isn't going to do you any good. Positive mindset will not get you there. You got to execute. Much like I tell people all the time, ideas are worthless if you can't execute on them. I always tell people, look, in 1982, when the first computers came out, I told everybody, man, everybody should have a computer in their house. That would be awesome. But I didn't execute on it. Michael Dell did. Other companies did. They were able to execute an idea. That idea was worthless to me. So don't get excited about your ideas if you don't know how to execute. All right, let me blow through the other ones. Number 2, failure does not lead to success. I know you've heard this, but I'm calling bullshit on it again. We'll get into that. 3, maybe, just maybe, you're not a good CEO. And that's what's holding you back. Number 4, what is the difference between you and me and Elon Musk? You need to know this one. Number 5, you probably talk too much. Number 6, delegate or stagnate, or worse, delegate or burn out. There are 4 levels of delegation, and it's your choice. Number 7, how much is enough? And then what? And finally, I know your mom loves you, but she has absolutely no idea what she's talking about, so stop listening to her. Okay, I want to start with my background here and why it's important for this episode. Unlike your mom, and by the way, when I say mom, I mean your parents, your friends, your relatives, anybody that's giving you business advice that has never successfully built a business has no idea what they're talking about. And if you're listening to them, you are making a critical error. Again, I know your mom's awesome and she loves you, but you need to stop listening to her as it relates to business. So then the question is, well, why should we listen to you? Fair question. My background expands over 30 years as a serial entrepreneur. In that time, I've launched 10 different startups in 5 industries. So far, I've had 3 exits, soon to be 4, by the way. 2 of those were venture capital exits, and 1 was a private equity. One of those companies went public and then back private. Now, in that same time frame, I've had a few failures, big, gigantic failures. I've had a couple of neutrals, and today I still have 3 operating companies, which, as I just mentioned, is soon to be 2, as I am moving toward another exit. I'm going to be selling the restaurants, just in case you're wondering. In short, I have failed and I have succeeded a lot. And in all those successes and failures, I learned. Now, one of the things I told you up top is failure does not lead to success. And so I'm going to give you what I call the first secret of success. All those people that you hear online on social media saying, hey, You got to fail to succeed. You got to fail, fail, fail to succeed. The faster you fail, the faster you'll succeed. That's all bullshit. Failure leads to failure. Failure does not lead to success. Have you ever met anyone that no matter what they do, it seems to fail? And have you ever met anyone that no matter what they do, it seems to work? I will tell you that the people that continuously fail never learned from their failures, and they are doomed to repeat the cycle over and over again. It is learning from failure that leads to success, not immediately, but at some point in the future. Many times, much like myself, I had to learn a lot of lessons, which meant I had to fail a lot, and I didn't quit. In fact, I call this the 100 steps to success. I always say there's 100 steps from where you are to where you want to be, or 100 steps from ground zero to success. Different people start on what I call the success ladder at different places. If you have great parents, if you have an entrepreneurial background, if you have money behind you, if you have good mentors, you might start on step 60 or 80 of the 100 steps, and your success will come quickly. If you're like me, I started at the bottom. I had no money. I had no mentors. I had nobody that gave me any kind of background or advice on success. I had nobody to look up to. So I had to learn a lot, which meant I failed a lot. But what I didn't do was quit. And so it took me from the age of 18 to the age of 40 before I sold the first company and started making some real money. And then that money started stacking up pretty quickly. But that's because I failed, learned, failed, learned, failed, learned. And eventually the learning turned to success. Failure does not lead to success. That's a big one. It's my first lesson of success. In the meantime, I've also written 4 books. The first one was a personal book. The last 3 books are what I call the trilogy of business, and they encompass what we're talking about today, which is called From Startup to Exit. Okay, so we're going to talk about these 3 books, and we're going to talk about how those books tie into those 8 things that we talked about when we started this episode. Okay, so the first book is called The Dropout Multi-Millionaire. And this book is really geared towards launching and beginning to scale a business. It is not a technical book. We're not going to talk about how to open a bank account and what kind of tax status you should have. This book is more about mental skill sets. Okay, it's soft skills. And I always start, and this book starts with the first question. And that is, if you're in business, are you a business owner or are you self-employed? And there is a big difference between those two. Okay, and the decisions you're going to make moving forward are based on the answer to that first question. If you're just someone who's created a business and you do all the work, you're the technician, you're the entrepreneur, you're the salesperson, it's basically you. You've really created a job for yourself and you're what we call self-employed. A business owner is someone who has infrastructure and employees and starts to learn to delegate and has hierarchy of management and builds an organization that can survive and thrive without them. That's a business. So the first question we ask is, are you self-employed or do you own a business? Okay, we need to get that one down first. Now, in this book, there are really 5 key takeaways. In fact, I wrote an article for Forbes magazine called The 5 Keys to Success, which coincidentally are the same 5 keys to failure. And that's what this book is really about. And so those 5 keys to success go something like this. And they're basically questions that I want you to ask yourself. And the first one is, why are you in business for yourself? Okay, why did you start a business? And I tell people all the time that most people start a business because of one of 2 things. They think it's either going to provide them with more money than they can make in a job, or it's going to provide them a better lifestyle than what they're going to have working a job. Those are the 2 big reasons people start businesses. It's not because they want to suffer and get yelled at and have horrible customers and get sued and have the government. That's not why we do it. We think it's because we'll make more money than we will in a job and we'll have a better lifestyle than we will in a job. And by the way, this is the same reason why people sell or quit their business, because it didn't provide more money than they could make in a job, or it didn't provide a better lifestyle. Because when those 2 things flip and you're in your own business thinking I can make more money working at McDonald's, people aren't going to be yelling at me all day, and I'm not going to be working 100 hours a week, that's why you sell or quit. So flip side of the same coin. What I want you to ask yourself is, why are you doing this? Because you better have a strong why when the shit hits the fan and everything's hard, you need to fall back on that why and remember why you're doing this so that you can keep pushing forward, moving yourself up that ladder of failure until you finally get to the success that you're looking for. Number two, and this is about your actual business. Why should anybody buy your product? And why should they buy it specifically from you? You're either going to be a commodity in the market or you're going to be a specialized product or individual. Okay. When I say commodity, that means they can buy it anywhere. If you are a landscaper and all you're doing is the same thing every other landscaper in town's doing, then your landscaping business is a commodity. And there's no reason why they should buy it from you or buy your services from you when they could buy it from the person up the street. So why is your business different? Why are you better? Why are you unique? And why should people buy your product from you? I remember I had a guy working for me years ago, and he went out on his own selling insurance. And he called me one day and he said, "Hey, Brian, I've started my own insurance agency and I need to get in and talk to these companies about buying their group health insurance from me. And I need a line to get past the gatekeeper or the secretary or the assistant. What can I say?" And I said, "Well, why should they buy the policy from you?" And he said, "Well, because I give great customer service." And my answer was, "So what? Everybody says that." And he said, "Well, I care about their employees." And I said, "So what? Everybody cares. Everybody says that. Why are you any different?" And he said, "Well, what should I say?" And I said, "I don't know. You tell me. When you figure out why they should buy health insurance from you and not the guy down the street, that's what you tell them when you walk in the door." That's a key point right there, by the way. Why should they buy it from you? Why should they buy your product, and why should they buy it from you? Number three, who are you in your business? This was one of our points up above. And by the way, who are you not? I call it the four personalities. There's the entrepreneur, the person with a vision. There is the manager / CEO, by the way. Most people don't understand that CEOs are actually administrative positions. They're managers. There is the technician or the talent, depending on what it is you do. And then there is sales or sales and marketing. Okay. I will tell you that most people that start businesses are the technician or the talent. And I always use Joe the plumber as an example. Joe's a plumber. He's been a plumber for 10 years. He's a good plumber. He goes out and he works every day. He's working for XYZ company. And Joe knows that the company's billing him out at $150 an hour. And Joe knows they're paying him $50 an hour. That means the company makes $100 an hour profit. And one day Joe wakes up and he says, "If I just start my own business, I can make $150 an hour, not just 50. And so Joe quits working for XYZ and starts Joe Plumbing. Well, that's how most businesses start. They are started by technicians or the talent, whether you're an architect or a CPA or a landscaper or a plumber or an electrician or whatever it is you do. The problem is, while Joe is a great plumber, Joe might not be a good business person. And so he starts his business and calls himself an entrepreneur and a CEO. But the problem is Joe doesn't know anything about running a business. He doesn't understand taxes and insurance and liability and legal and corporate structures and bank accounts and all the things you need to understand in order for your business to prosper. And as I like to say, that if Joe's plumbing business fails, and they fail every day, by the way, or if you're a landscaper and your business fails, it's not going to be because Joe doesn't know how to be a good plumber. It's going to be because Joe doesn't know how to run a business. That's why Joe fails. So maybe Joe isn't the CEO or the entrepreneur. Maybe Joe is the technician and the talent, and he needs to bring in people around him who are good at doing the things he's not good at. Okay. Maybe Joe's not a good salesperson. He needs a sales force. Maybe Joe's not the good CEO. He needs a good manager CEO. Whatever you're good at is what you need to do in your business. And whatever you're not is what you need to backfill. And by the way, this is an honest discussion you have to have with yourself about who are you and who are you not. Because if you're in the wrong role, your business will either not grow or it will eventually fail. Number 4, your personal filter. I love this one. This gets back to your mom. If you have never successfully built a business on your own, or if you have never scaled past where you are now and you want to, then you need to understand you don't know what you're doing. All you're doing at this point is guessing. And guessing doesn't have the highest probability of success. And I call this your personal filter. And this is kind of the way this thing works. You see, in business, you have to make decisions that are good for the business across a lot of different disciplines, be they sales, marketing, finance, accounting, installation, whatever it is you do. There are a lot of things that you need to be making decisions on. And if you never made those decisions successfully or scaled a company successfully and understood when to hire people and how to hire people and how much to invest and how much to save, if you've never made those decisions, then all you're doing is guessing. And so we talk about this personal filter like this. Every person out there, I call it, has a personal filter that sits in their subconscious brain, and it makes decisions for them. This works for you too. You have a personal filter sitting in your subconscious that makes decisions for you without you even knowing it. And so every time somebody tells you something, and you tell me if you recognize this, somebody will tell you something and the first thing you say is, no, that's not true. Or you'll say, wow, that's actually right. If you say, no, that's not true, that no, that's not true was an instant decision made by your subconscious mind based on something that you think you know, based on information that you've gotten in the past. Everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever heard, every person who's ever told you something, every TV show, every book you've read, every course you've taken in college and high school, everything your parents told you creates a filter to all the information that comes at you constantly all day long. And that filter decides whether you're going to accept that information or reject that information. In fact, there are people listening to me say this right now thinking I'm full of crap. They're not accepting it because their personal filter doesn't believe it. And other people will say, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense because their personal filter is accepting the information I'm giving them. Now, when you're in business and decisions are coming at you or questions are coming at you at 100 miles an hour, your brain is making decisions on whether to accept or reject that information. And if you've never successfully scaled a business, your brain doesn't know how to make the right decisions. It's guessing. It's using all that information, but if that information isn't based in successfully scaling a business, then it's still guessing at what you think you need to do. And that's why people have up and down failures, because they guess, they get it right or they get it wrong, and it creates a cycle. Okay. So your personal filter, if it's never experienced success in doing what you're doing, isn't built to give you the highest level of success possible at this time. Okay. Now, the example I use, and this is one of our things up top, I said, what's the difference between you and me and Elon Musk? He's the richest man in the world. We clearly are not. The only difference between us is the way he thinks and the way you and I think. It's his filter versus our filter. His filter has experience scaling gazillion-dollar companies and changing the world. Our filter doesn't. And I use this example all the time. I say, if you and I had a trucking company and we were going to start moving product back and forth between San Francisco and LA, or let's use a real live example. We need to move people around Las Vegas, Nevada, or even more importantly, we need to move people around the convention center in Las Vegas. You and I are thinking, okay, we got to get a map. We got to figure out which hallways to go down. We got to figure out how to get there at the best time. When is it going to be busy? When is it not? That's the way you and I think. Elon Musk said, let's just build a tunnel underneath there and we'll put a bunch of Teslas down there. You just get in a car and we'll drive you to the next stop underneath the convention center. And they're currently building a tunnel around the base of Las Vegas so you can move from one hotel to the next underground at 100 miles an hour in one of his cars. If we were going to move product between San Francisco and LA, you and I are trying to figure out traffic patterns. He's thinking, screw it, let's build a tunnel. He thinks differently than we do. That's because his filter thinks differently than our filter. If you want to be successful and you've never done it and your filter doesn't know how to make those decisions, by the way, you need to bring somebody in that has had success doing what you're trying to do and take their advice. This is why we talk about coaching and mentoring and using consultants. Find somebody who's had success building a business. Find somebody who's had success scaling. Find somebody who's had success building a sales organization and bring them in and let them help you make the right decisions and help build your filter so that you can do it on your own in the future. Your personal filter is so important. Tim Cook runs Apple Computer. One of the smartest guys in the world, runs one of the biggest companies in the world. Tim has a board of directors, 12 people that come in quarterly, and he gives them all his problems and they give him advice and he takes it and he builds Apple with it. Tim Cook has a personal coach. If Tim Cook has a coach and a board of directors to help him, what makes you think that you can do it all by yourself? Okay, your personal filter is important. And number 5, if you're going to build a business, you better know your numbers and you better know them cold. You need to understand how a profit and loss statement works. You need to understand what we call reverse engineering. In fact, I do a course called Reverse Engineering Your Success Through Your P&L. Your profit and loss statement is a crystal ball. And if you learn how to analyze and use the data inside that P&L, you can do amazing things in your business. You'd be shocked how many people that I talk to that have a business that don't understand P&L analysis. Many times don't even keep a good P&L. It blows my mind. So why are you doing this? Why should anybody buy your product? Who are you and who are you not? If your personal filter hasn't ever done this, it doesn't know what it's doing, you need to bring in somebody to help you, get a coach, get a mentor, get an advisor. And number 5, learn your numbers. And if math just isn't your thing and you say, I just can't do math, then you better bring somebody in who understands it. Okay. That's basically the gist of my first book, The Dropout Multi-Millionaire. The second book is called No, The Psychology of Sales and Negotiation. If you've started building a company and you're starting to scale, one of the most important things you need to understand is that sales makes the world go round. Nothing happens if you don't sell it. And you need to understand sales. And by the way, sales is the flip side of the coin of marketing. Sales and marketing go hand in hand, okay? Most sales training you will see out there are based on, and I got this from my friend Luke Lunk, by the way, he calls them word tracks. I don't know if he made that up or if he got it someplace. I never heard it before he said it, but they're based on word tracks. Say this, say that. They are slick sales lines. No customer wants to hear slick sales lines, and most of them recognize it. Okay. We don't teach slick sales lines. We don't teach word tracks. The book I've written is about human nature and psychology. It's called The Psychology of Sales and Negotiation. It's more closer to Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. Him and I, our principles are almost identical. It's about why people will or won't buy from you. Okay. We don't teach you how to manipulate people into doing something they don't want to do. There are sales courses, I've watched them on social media where they're trying to manipulate people with these slick little lines to get them to do things they don't want to do. I'm not going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to find out what the decision is the client came to you that they wanted to make and how you can help them make the decision that they've already decided they want to make, right? I didn't say that very clear, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. In fact, I use this example. If you have a business and people are coming into you or they're calling you or they're coming to your place of business, I own some restaurants. I don't know that I've ever seen somebody come into my restaurant, let's say a family of 4, and they come in and the host greets them and sets them at a table and the server comes up and says, how can I help you? I've never seen that family of 4 say, you know what? We just really came here to sit and watch people. We're not interested in buying any food or drinks today. I mean, that's a stupid example. Somebody wouldn't do that. But you have people coming into your place of business and you think they're coming there just for no reason. They just want to look around. They were bored on a Saturday afternoon. They didn't have anything else to do. And so they thought they would come and waste their time. When people come to see you, when they start engaging with you, it's because they have an idea in their head that there's something that they want that you've got. Okay. You need to figure out what that is. And that's what this book is about. It's the psychology of sales, why people will and won't buy from you, and why you can turn them on or turn them back off. There are 5 top takeaways in this book, much like the last one. Number 1, we call this the first objection. This is the one that almost every salesperson misses. People don't like salespeople, so don't be one. And when I say that, it's not that people don't like you. You might be a great person. You have parties on the weekends. You coach soccer. You got kids. But when you put your sales hat on, people don't like you as a salesperson. They don't like you because they are afraid of you. They are afraid of being sold. They are afraid of the unknown. It is that fear of the unknown and that fear of being sold. In other words, you're going to make them buy something that they either don't want, or it's too expensive, or it's not exactly what they want. They're afraid of being sold. They're afraid. That's why they don't like you in that role, by the way, not you personally. That's the first objection we teach. And we have a way, it's a generalized scripting we use to help you get over that first objection. We get into that a lot in the book. And also I have a sales course out there called the Psychology of Sales course. We also teach people how to get around that first objection. That is a critical one that most salespeople don't do. And it's why they end up fighting with customers throughout the entire sales process. Number 2, we break the sales cycle down into 4 boxes. The introduction is box 1. It's 10% of the sales process. Fact finding is box 2. That is 70% of the sales process. In fact, I tell you, and we teach this in the book and in the course, that if you do a proper fact finding, your client should have probably already begun to, if not, closed themselves. Your job is not to close them. Your job is to do a proper fact finding. Box 3 is the presentation. This is where we talk about, well, in fact, I tell you, people talk too much. I bet you $1 to a donut, that's an old phrase, shows how old I am, that your presentation is probably 3 to 4 times longer than it needs to be. People don't retain information over a long period of time. In fact, what we tell people is people only retain 20% of what you say 10 minutes later. They only retain 50 to 60% of what you say and what they see. And they only retain 80% of what you say, what they see, and what they've actually done. So if they're only retaining 20 to 30% of what you say, that means the more you talk, the less they remember. Okay? The more you talk, the less they remember. Your sales presentation should be 3 to 4 bullet points that you talk about, and that's it. Because if you're talking about more than that, they aren't remembering it. And what's worse is they're either remembering the first 4 things you said or the last 3 or 4 things you said. And they don't remember anything else in the presentation. Your presentation is not about selling them on all the great benefits. You should have already convinced them that the benefits were what they wanted in the fact finding, not in the presentation. That's what the fact finding is about. Again, that's what we teach in the book and in the sales course. So your presentation is probably too long. You're probably talking too much. Okay. Number 4, if you make an offer in a sale or a negotiation, and if you've made your offer, the next person to talk loses. You make an offer, you stop talking. The next person to talk after an offer loses. And I use this example as well. I bought a restaurant years ago, and the guy that was selling the restaurant wanted $300,000. And I walked in, I looked at it, I said no, and I left. Literally a year later, the business broker called me back and he said, the guy will take your 300. And I laughed and I said, it's been a year, I'll give him 200. He clearly still wants out. And he said, he's not going to take 200. I said, then I'm out. He called me back another year. So 2 years have gone by. He calls me, he said, he'll take your 100. And I said, all right, I'll come look at it. So we go look at the business. We go through all of the due diligence and the books and the interviews and the leases, and we do all the stuff we're supposed to do. We get down to the last day, and I sat across the table from the guy, me, the seller, and the business broker. And I said, listen, I apologize, but I can't give you $100,000 for this business. It's not worth it. We're in the 11th hour. And he said, well, how much are you willing to offer? And I said, 0. And he said, what? And I said, I'll offer you 0. And I stopped talking. And he just looked at me. And the business broker looked at me. And we're just staring at each other because I knew the next person to talk loses. And the next thing he said after about a minute was, well, I can't take 0. And I knew I had him. And the reason I was able to do that is because in my due diligence, I had found out that it was November of this year and that his liquor license had to get renewed in the next 30 days or that business was going to go away. I also knew his lease needed to be renewed in the next 30 days. So he either need to sign another lease or walk away. I also knew his franchise agreement had to get re-signed for another 10 years or he had to walk away. I knew that he had no choice to take my offer, whatever it was, or he was going to lose the business anyway. There was nothing left for him to sell 30 days later. So at the end of the day, I gave him $10,000. I bought his inventory, his liquor, and his food. I took over his employees and his payroll. He walked away, didn't lose everything, picked up about $20,000. I bought the business for 20 cents on the dollar from what he wanted. The next person to talk loses. Do your homework, figure out everything there is to know, then what we call anchor the deal. I anchored the bottom at 0, and we worked our way up from there. So the next one to talk loses. And the fifth thing, and this is the most critical thing you can do in sales, particularly if you own the company or you're a sales manager, is you need to understand how to start building what we call P&L by salesperson, profit and loss statement by salesperson. Too many companies do profit and loss statements. We call it from the top down. I'm telling you, to be successful, you need to build profit and loss statements from the bottom up. And they start with sales and marketing, because everything that gets sold in your business gets sold by somebody, and that person runs their own profit and loss statement. They've got their own overhead, they've got their own lead cost, they've got their own salary, they've got their own infrastructure support facility, whether it's space or people supporting them. Every salesperson is a profit and loss statement. I have never, ever gone in to do a consulting project where I did a company-wide Salesforce P&L that I didn't find the bottom 20% of that sales force losing money. Let me say that another way. Every time I do a consulting project for an organization, we do a P&L statement on each individual salesperson, something I have to build out with a finance department. And in every single case, the bottom 20% of the sales force is losing money. And the company didn't know it. They keep thinking more salespeople, more revenue, more profit. That's not the way it works. I did one where we had 60 salespeople, and of the 60, 20 of them were losing money. By simply eliminating 20 out of 60 people, I was able to generate more money with more profit, with a lower infrastructure and a lower lead cost for that organization, with 20 less people. And then we were able to build the company back up to 60 out of profitability and not out of loss. So again, we talk a lot about this. I hate to keep repeating this, but you need to learn how to build a P&L by salesperson for your organization and start managing your sales force using that and that alone. Okay. P&L by salesperson, bottom up P&L, critical to building sales organizations. The third book is called The Invisible Multi-Millionaire. So far, we've started the business. We learned what we needed to do mentally. We started to scale. We built a sales force. We've started to build that sales force profitably. We've now got a company that's making money, and we have to start making a decision. Do we want to keep the business, or do we want to get rid of it? So this book was written to prepare your company for an exit to create generational wealth. I wrote this book with my friend Jeff. Jeff is a private equity M&A advisor in the blue collar space. So landscaping, snow removal, tree trimming, porta potties, fencing, anything in the blue collar space. Jeff is in the M&A field, sells companies. I always tell people, I'm so impressed with this. In the last 6 years, Jeff has secured over $1 billion in exit capital for his company owners. That means he's sold over $1 billion worth of companies in 6 years for the people he works with. Now, between my experience as a serial entrepreneur with multiple exits across multiple industries, selling companies, private equity, venture capital, and Jeff's experience selling other people's companies, we wrote this book as a how-to for someone who wants to learn how to fast track their company and begin to prepare for an eventual exit to create generational wealth. Okay, this one has 9 takeaways. I'm breaking the mold with 5. There are 9 here. I'm going to go through these probably a little bit quicker. Number 1, we have to decide, and I said this a second ago, what do you want in your business? You may want to stay self-employed, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. You may want to stay a family business, and that's okay. If you're building this business so you can pass it on to your kids and you want to have this as being a generational type business, then this book probably isn't for you. Some of it is, some of it's not. If you want to be the man, there are people that build businesses because they enjoy being in charge. They love that, everybody looks at me, everybody counts on me. I get to make all the decisions. I'm the man. If that's what you want, then still do it. And then there are the people that, and this was me, and I said this to somebody the other day when he's talking about selling his business. My friend Justin said, well, I got an offer, but I don't know what it is. And my answer to Justin was, take the money. Okay, take the money. I've always been a take the money guy. You offer me enough money that is even semi worth it, I'm going to take it and move on. And part of that's my ADHD. I want to do something different. But if you think your business is the point where you're ready to do something different, or if you love your business, but you still want to do something different, or if you want to take outside private equity capital and 3, 4, 5, 10x your business and really build something huge, then that's what this book is for. Okay. So the first question is, what do you want? Number 2, delegation. And in almost all those instances above, even if you want to be the man or you want to build a family business, if you're not delegating properly within your business, you're either going to stagnate or you're going to burn out. Because I see this a lot with entrepreneurs. They start a business, they're working 40 hours a week. It starts growing, they're working 50 hours a week. They get more successful, they're working 60 hours, more successful, 70, more successful, 80. It's a cliche that the entrepreneur is working 80 to 100 hours a week, never sees his family, doesn't go to his kid events, his wife never sees him, and he gets burned out. That's a cliche. And the answer to the cliche is he never learned to delegate. And there are two reasons people don't delegate. Okay? This are two reasons why burnout happens. The first is fear. It's fear that if you're going to delegate to somebody else, they won't do it as good as you. It's fear that they won't do it as fast as you. It's fear that they might make a mistake with a customer and you'll lose revenue. It's fear that everything will not be good enough or as good as you. And that is a valid fear. And what I tell people is, if you can hire somebody that you can delegate a portion of your business to that can do it 80% as good as you, then you've hit a home run. If you got 10 people, 80% as good as you, you have 800% of your personal productivity. What could you do with 800% of your personal productivity? Your business would grow bigger and faster than you could possibly imagine. The first one is fear. You got to get over that fear that I have to be in complete control. The second problem is what I call personal overspending. I learned this one the hard way. My first company, because I'd come from nothing, nowhere, broke as you can possibly be, taking cash in a calculator to the grocery store, if anybody can relate to that, to starting to have some success. And as my success level went up, my lifestyle went up. I remember I bought a Mercedes and I was like, dude, I failed out of high school. I'm driving a Mercedes. And then I got a motorcycle, and then I got a sports car, and then I bought a little bigger house, and then I got a boat. And over an 8-year period, as my business was more and more successful, my lifestyle, I looked good, I smelled good, I had a good lifestyle. People thought I was successful. And then it happened. Something went wrong in the business. I got tripped up. I lost one major client that cost me 70 to 80% of the revenue in my company, and my business collapsed and I lost everything. Okay. Fear of delegation works the same way. If you are increasing your lifestyle as the success of your business goes up, then you don't have the money to invest in delegating to another qualified individual who's going to have to learn and fail and will cost you money in the process. You can't afford it because you can't afford to lose the income by paying them. You can't afford it because if they screw up and cost your company money, you're not going to have that money to spend on your personal lifestyle. You can't afford anybody to screw up. And I got to tell you, when you start a delegation plan, people are going to screw up. Things are going to go wrong. It's going to cost you money, but you will eventually build something much bigger, much more profitable, and something you can sell to create generational wealth with. That fear of delegation, whether it's the fear of failure of your people or the fear of not being able to pay your own personal bills because your lifestyle is too high, is what will keep you from delegating and cause you to burn out or stagnate in your business. That was number 2. Number 3, the 4 steps to proper delegation. If you're going to start a delegation plan, there are 4 levels. The first one is administrative or a personal assistant. I talked to a guy, I remember he had a fencing company and we're talking about it. And I said, how much time are you spending in the office? He said, probably the first 4 hours a day I'm in doing paperwork. I said, why are you doing that? He goes, because I can do it faster. I'm like, that's dumb. If you didn't have to do paperwork 4 hours a day, how much more business could you generate and revenue could you generate? He's like, well, I could do a lot more. I said, then hire somebody that does 4 hours of work in an 8-hour period. And then you go generate 5 times their salary. Everybody makes more money and you're not doing paperwork anymore. After that's personal assistant. If you're taking time to book your own calls and answer your own emails and do all the silly things that you have to do, you need to hire somebody else to do that so that you can spend your time doing what you do best. All right. Second step is marketing. Marketing is a specialty skill set. I'm telling you, I am great at sales and I suck at marketing. People say, help us with marketing. And my answer is no. I know how to analyze marketing, but I don't know how to generate it. I can tell you what marketing's working and what's not, but I don't know how to go generate more marketing. Marketing is a specialized skill, and marketing has to fit within ROIs and cost per job and revenue per person, per salesperson. There's all kinds of things marketing has to fit in. You need to hire somebody who's a specialist at marketing. Sales. By the way, you can't have sales if you don't have marketing. Sales is the third thing. If you are the only salesperson in your organization, you can only sell so much. You need to start building a team. That's what my book was written for, The Psychology of Sales. That's what my sales course, I have a master class called The Psychology of Sales. That's what it's there for, to help you build a sales team. And the fourth thing is executive. At some point, you need to start delegating the executive tasks in your company using performance dashboards and KPI dashboards so that you have the ability to go someplace else besides in your business. So that you have the ability to not have to have your cell phone on you 24 hours a day taking calls, so that you can go skiing and answer a call while you're on the slopes, or you can go out on the lake and take a call if you have to while you're on the water, but you don't have to be in the office working. That's called buying your life back. If you can learn to buy your life back, you'll be a much happier person. Okay? 4, if you're going to do all these steps of delegation, you need to understand your team's going to fail. I covered this a minute ago, and you need to be okay with it. When you're okay when your employee's failing, because you know they're only going to be 80% as good as you, but they will allow you to expand and grow your business much faster, you'll be a happier person. You got to let them fail so that they can learn. 5, this is a big one in this book. Private equity, they need you. Okay? There is absolutely no shortage of money to be invested in businesses. There is only a shortage of badass CEOs with properly structured companies. Private equity needs you. If a private equity firm goes out and raises $1 billion, I just talked to one the other day, they don't raise $1 billion from private investors so that they can invest it in T-bills at 3%. When they raise money from private investors, they expect to get a 3, 5, 10x return. That's what they sell their platform to. Hey, come invest money with us. We'll give you a 300, 400, 500% return on your money. You don't get that with 3 or 4 or 5% return. You don't get that putting your money in the stock market at 10%. You have to deploy the money, and you have to deploy the money with companies that are run by badass CEOs that are properly structured and have a proper growth plan that they can take, throw enormous amounts of unlimited capital at, and blow this thing out of the water. That's why I said earlier, figure out what you want and who you are. If you want to 3x, 5x, 10x your company and really do something cool, you need a crap load of capital. That's what private equity does. They have to invest it. If you want to learn how to prepare your company to get into the private equity game, that's what the book is for. Okay? 6, what is your company worth? Well, I've actually got a little business valuation tool on my website. If you go to brianwillmedia.com, go to the training center, there's a basic business valuation tool in there. I ran my valuation tool against Alex Hormozzi's, if you know who that is, and we were damn close in the way we value businesses. So it's a pretty good indicator from a generic standpoint on what your business can sell for. So if you're interested in what you think your company's worth, go to brianwillmedia.com, check out the business valuation tool on the training page, and get some kind of idea. But you got to be honest in the answers, by the way. Number 7, you think you're ready to sell your company. Great. If you try to sell your company on your own, you're crazy. If your company is generating at least $2 million of EBITDA, and that's basically what you need to be what we call a baby platform company in private equity. I'm getting a little detailed here, but all this information is in the book if you want to read about it. Baby platform companies in private equity need $2 million of EBITDA. You can be a tack on or a tuck in or a roll up if you're at 500,000 of equity or more. But if you've got that kind of EBITDA, you need to bring in a deal team that understands what private equity is looking for, how they want to see it structured, and how you can get the maximum valuation for what you've got. There are too many people out there trying to sell their companies to private equity that don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to properly structure it. They don't have a good deal team, which is a good deal lawyer, a deal CPA, a deal quarterback, which is the advisory guy. They don't have somebody with contacts in the industry that knows and has done this a million times. My friend Jeff says, look, you're selling your company, you're selling one. I do one a month. I've done 100. I know exactly how to set this up. I know exactly what it's supposed to look like. I know exactly what the private equity firm is going to look for. I know exactly what questions they're going to ask. We're going to prepare your deal to answer every question before they ever ask it. It's one of our sales points, by the way, earlier in the other book, overcoming objections before they have it. That's what your deal team does. So that when the PE guys roll in with their busload of MBAs from Harvard and Ernst & Young, and they're going to start analyzing your business, all the answers are already there. They're not going to tear you apart and start driving your valuation down until they can steal that company from you. You need a good deal team, okay? 8, how much is enough? This is a good question as well. And it's a question that we talk to people and they're thinking of selling. They're saying, I want to sell my company, but I don't know if I want to sell it now. I might want to sell it for more. And the answer is, well, how much is enough? How much money do you think you need in order to create the lifestyle that you want moving forward? And does it have to all be in this sale? Or can this sale, I've had this conversation, how about if we get you $5 or $10 million to secure your lifestyle today for the rest of your life, and then maybe go build another company where you can make 50 or 100 million? What is it? What is enough? What is enough today? What is enough ultimately? And when we answer that question, then we go back and do the valuation exercise. We can start to determine whether today is the right time to sell or if we want to wait. First, you need to figure out what you think it's worth. Then we need to find out how much is enough for you. And by the way, if you're 30 years old, maybe you don't need 100 million today. If you could get 5 or 10, maybe that's enough for today and you can go do something different. Little shout out to my friend. If he's listening, he'll know who I'm talking to. And finally, let's say you've sold your business. We built the company, we built the sales team, we delegated it, we built a proper structure, we got a deal team, we put it together, private equity's interested, they make us an offer, they buy our company. Now what are you going to do? This is called post-sale regret. And I know people that their identity is so wrapped up in their business that they don't know what to do with themselves once they've sold. They're no longer the person in charge. They're no longer calling the shots. If they still have an equity piece in the company, which a lot of them do in private equity, they still don't get to be the ultimate decision maker in their own company. Now what? What are you going to do? You can't sit around the house and watch TV the rest of your life. These are decisions we need to go through, questions you need to ask yourself, things you need to plan in advance. Now what? Okay. What is going to determine your happiness moving forward once money is not the issue? I have a friend, his name's Paul. He's one of my mentors, lives in Park City. And after I sold my third company, I remember I was sitting out in Park City and he said, okay, Brian, you sold the company. Now what? What are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, Paul. Maybe I'll start another business. And he said, why? Do you need the money? And I said, no, not really. He said, then why are you going to start another business? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know what else to do. I've been head down, dark to dark for 20 years. This is all I've ever done. And it's all I've ever known. I don't know what else to do. And he said, let me tell you something, Brian. I'm going to tell you the secret to true happiness. Number one, you need to find a passion. You need to find something that you're passionate about that is not necessarily money driven. Something that excites you down into your soul, something that you can do or achieve or accomplish or help. Find a passion, or you will spend the rest of your life just chasing money. And the second thing you need to do is find a way to give back. The world has given you a lot at this point. You have a lifestyle that 99.999% of the people in the world can't even imagine. You need to find a way to give back to the world some of what the world gave you. You do those two things and you'll be happy. You don't, and we'll be talking in 5 years about the next business you started, and you'll still be slogging it out every day like you've been for the last 20. So find a passion, find a way to give back. Those are the 9 steps. All right. That is my From Startup to Exit podcast. It is a high-level look at a lot of different areas. If you want more information on this, all 3 books go into detail on all this: The Dropout Multi-Millionaire, The Psychology of Sales, and the third book, which is The Invisible Multi-Millionaire. I don't think I told you the title of that when I started this section, but it's The Invisible Multi-Millionaire. That was written by me and Jeff. You can also go to my website, brianwillmedia.com. All the books are there, my podcasts, my blog posts, my social media stuff, my training courses are there. I do have the new training course on sales called the Psychology of Sales Masterclass Training Course, killer course. If you're looking to learn how to be better at sales or manage a sales team, highly, highly encourage you. Not that expensive. It does have add-ons and whatnot you can go through. But again, at brianwillmedia.com, check that all out. If you have any questions, you can drop me a message there. Email me at brian@brianwillmedia.com. Appreciate you listening. That's it for today. And remember, to win the game, you got to be in the game. So get in the game. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you would like to get more information on either one of my books or my one-on-one coaching programs, you can find me at brianwillmedia.com or the dropoutmm.com.